Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Candice Tamara and I'm a trauma and mindset coach, and I am known for helping people go from anxious to secure attachment, secure in you and your relationships. It's very important that you have a relationship with yourself too. So if you haven't done already, hit subscribe. And today we're going to talk a little bit about when you're anxiously blowing up their phone, calling, texting, it's that anxiety in your feeling in your body, that you experience when you have an anxious attachment style. And I know that this is a really popular topic. So I'm going to share with you what to do instead. So, perhaps they've gone out with friends, let's take a scenario, and you've asked them to like check in with you, and you haven't heard anything from them, and you've texted them, but you haven't got a response. And at that point, your anxiety is going to be going like this. It's going to be going a little mad. And the anxious thoughts that would kick in for you is like, how could they not check in when I asked them? I told them what it does to me when they don't check in, right? And perhaps at that point you're like texting even more. Hello, can you answer? I'm really worried. You said you would check in. Like, let me know you're okay. And they're just out with their friends. Like, this is just one scenario. There's lots of different ways. They could be at work and they could be doing these things. I'm just setting the scene because you know exactly these scenarios in your mind. You know exactly when this has happened, and this is very much your anxious attachment style, and totally been there. And I know the panic. You're checking to see if they're online. You're watching to see if they're there and they're just ignoring you, or what is going on. And all of these scenarios are playing in your mind. You are fearing the worst, of course, because you have an anxious attachment style, so you see things through the lens of fear. You might start to call them, and they're just not answering, and every single time your anxiety is getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And it's all you can think about. You are staring at your phone, waiting for their message. If it lights up, you're like, oh, it's them, and it's not. It's your mum, or it's a group chat, or it's an email. And you're just hoping to hear from them so that your anxiety feels soothed. And it's a really unbearable feeling. And I know, I get it. So that is what we're going to talk about today, instead about like what to do instead. And what I want to say is, what I'm saying is not to shame you. Like, some of these things, I know you do not want to be like this, and I didn't want to be like this when I was anxiously attached too. So it's not to shame you while I bring out these scenarios and why replay these things. It's actually to help you and to know that this is not you. I know it's not you. This is your anxious attachment style. Every anxious attachment style, I've worked with tons and tons, hundreds and hundreds of clients now that are anxiously attached. I was anxiously attached. How do you think I'm so good at knowing this? So just know this is your anxious attachment style. So I'm not shaming you. I'm just highlighting the symptoms of anxious attachment style so that you can see that that is the problem. And that is what needs to change, so that you don't sabotage your relationships with this kind of behavior and with this anxiety, because it is flipping painful for you. I know, and I know you don't want to be like this. I know that. Believe me, I hated it. But I don't want you to hate that. I don't want you to be unkind to yourself. I want you to know that this is your anxious attachment style, because at the core of anxious attachment style is an abandonment wound, an inner abandonment wound, right? And just for anyone who knows, abandonment wound doesn't necessarily come from a physical abandonment. It can very much be emotional abandonment, and a lot of times it is. So it's not as simple as someone physically abandoned you. They could emotionally have abandoned you, and that can happen in lots and lots and lots of different ways. The scenarios all change, but essentially the core of it remains the same. And when you have an abandonment wound, if they've gone out with their friends, first of all, with an anxious attachment style, we feel soothed when they're with us 24/7, basically. And when you haven't worked on your action attachment style. Like our ideal scenario would be we'd want to be with them all the time because it's reassuring for our anxiety, right? And any distance away from them is when our anxiety can kick in and our thoughts kick in. So it can be really painful for us, and know that this is just your anxiety, but it's not healthy. It's not how a relationship should be. It's, I know you know that, it's just that you're needing them as your comfort blanket. Think about it from the sense of like a child that has or a pacifier. That's exactly what they are. They're a pacifier to your anxiety. That is not going to be healthy because you're needing them. And that's when needy behavior comes in and sabotages your relationship. So I really want to teach you what you need to do so that you don't need them for this, that you need yourself and you can do it yourself. And that's what I do. And that's how it changes people's relationships with themselves, because they stop needing that validation from anyone else because they are it, and they are able to have more healthier relationships and not sabotage with anxiety. So you know, they've gone out with their friends, so they're away from you, so this will trigger your abandonment wound. They're away, even though they haven't abandoned you. Your abandonment wound is not logical, unfortunately. It's a trauma response. It doesn't know. It's so old, it has no idea what's going on. It just gets triggered, right, until you do the work. So you're going to feel that they've abandoned you, especially because they're ignoring you and they're not responding. So of course it's going to trigger you even more. And there's also a part of you that's probably feels rejected. Rejection and abandonment wound is very common with anxious attachment style. And so when they're not responding to you, they're rejecting you, essentially, is how you're going to feel it. You're triggered by it. You know, they're not thinking of you as how you're seeing it as. They're not messaging you. Who are they having fun with, or what are they doing? You know, they're not bothered, and you're going to feel that rejection and that feeling of abandonment in it. And that's why, you know, the longer it goes on, you're actually getting more anxious. And actually, that's why the more you're chasing after them, the more you're blowing up their phone and they're not responding. Perhaps you're calling, and actually, because they're not responding to you, it feels like a rejection. Feels like it. It's not a rejection, but it feels like it. Remember, this is the lens of anxious attachment style. It's going to make you more anxious and more anxious and more anxious, because it's just triggering that abandonment wound, that rejection wound for you. So it's actually worse, and you need them to soothe it for you. But that's where you're self-sabotaging relationship. And just now, I've totally been there. So the thing is, to them, you know, even though you might have told them like how it impacts you when this happens, there's a few things here that I have to say about it. And that is, first of all, it's really hard for anyone to understand an anxious attachment style unless they have it, because they don't understand how it literally feels horrible and how it consumes you, because it's a trauma response and they don't understand. They haven't experienced it. So even though you might try and explain it to them, they're not going to necessarily be thinking like that. They're not going to be feeling that way. They're not going to understand that. And actually, it's not their responsibility to. Yes, of course, your partner could help, and I agree with that. But it's not their responsibility to be your pacifier. It's not their responsibility to be your soother. That is what you need to figure out, because your anxious attachment style is old. It's from the past. It's actually not even from this relationship. So it's for you to do that work to pacify yourself. And yes, your partner can help with that, and certainly not make you feel more anxious, but you have to know that there's also healthy boundaries. You know, they might want to be out with their friends and focused on other relationships, platonic ones, of course, friendships. And that's totally healthy. It's fine. You cannot be their 100% attention all the time, and they cannot be responsible for pacifying your anxiety all the time. You have to learn to do that for yourself, and it's in your best interest to learn to do it for yourself. And you know, I know that's hard, I know it, but it is in your best interest, because it's really not very empowering to be needing that from someone else, is it? It doesn't feel good. It feels horrible. It feels so horrible. So I want you to have that relationship with yourself so you can control yourself, so you don't need to control them. And you know, them checking in with you, it's not really that fun, is it? It's kind of like checking in with their parent, and that you're not their parent. and they're not a child. So you have to think of it a little bit from their perspective. I know that from your perspective, it's like, well, you know, they should be supporting me, they should be doing this, they know how it makes me feel, and they said they would, and blah 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 blah. And I get that, I do, I know, and that would be an ideal world, and that would be great. But sometimes people just want to blow off steam, they just want to have fun, they want to focus on other things, or they're just prioritizing something else, they're just focused on it, or it could be they're at work and they're just focused on that, they're prioritized on that, and they're not thinking that how it's going to be impacting you. But also, it's not really their responsibility to be doing that. They are an individual person just as you are. Yes, you have a lovely relationship together, but you want to be adding value to each other, not be each other's crutch every time. And with an anxious attachment style, it's very all consuming, you know. We need that reassurance constantly, and this is why, you know, that can be difficult for someone to always do. So, and just like, you know, if it was the other way around, how many times have you let's think about it. Maybe we're in dating situations and there's been the person that's been really keen on you and they're really a bit needy, and they're wanting you to contact them all the time or something. Maybe you've been in situations like that and it kind of puts you off, right? Even though it's an anxious attachment style, you're like, oh my God, I love it. It doesn't feel that good. It doesn't, like, you know, you feel a bit suffocated by it because you're doing your own thing, right? Because you're not triggered at that point. You don't need that from them. Maybe you're not as into them. Not to say that that's what's going on here, but you know, it can feel a little bit difficult, you know. And so just try and think of it from that perspective. And this is really just your anxious attachment style needing those kind of expectations. So let's talk about you know, what you're going to do instead, because I know you know that this is kind of pushing them away a little bit, sabotaging your relationships. I know you don't want to feel like this. I get it. So number one is that I want you to know, and replay this video anytime you're not sure, I want you to know that this is your anxious attachment style that is triggered. And when that happens, you are now seeing things through the lens of fear. So you'll be unable to see the truth. So I don't want you to act on these fearful thoughts, because what can happen is, you know, we can get triggered and then we start to have all these thoughts, well, they don't care about me, they don't mind, I should just break up with them anyway. Who are they? They don't even care that I'm feeling this way. You know, I should break up with them, I should send them a text and tell them how rubbish they are. And all of this stuff will be ruminating in you because of your fearful anxious attachment style, when actually that is the lens of anxious attachment style. When actually another lens that doesn't have an anxious attachment style could just be like, oh, they must have just got caught up speaking to someone or a friend, or they're just busy with work, or maybe they've got a deadline, or whatever it is, the scenario, and it actually has nothing to do with you, and they'll totally get back to you, and everything is totally fine. They haven't lost interest. They're probably speaking about you to their colleague or to their friend. That is the other side of things that you're not going to be able to see because you're anxious attachment style, because it's going to be fearing the worst. So you have to know at that point that this is what's happened. You're triggered, you're fearing the worst, and your anxious attachment style is in play. So do not act on it. 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 Do not send the long text about how they've made you feel. Do not break up with them. Do not call them, blow up their phone. Do not do any of those things. And I know it's hard, but please know that this is what is happening here, because this is where you're going to start to self-sabotage and push them away. Number two, okay, is that you need to soothe your nervous system. Your anxious attachment style is a trauma response. Your nervous system is so important. I wish I'd have known this when I was anxiously attached. Your nervous system, trauma lives in your body. It's that feeling that you get in your body of anxiety, right? It's triggered. It's like this. You need to soothe your nervous system. There's so many different ways to do it. And luckily, you know, lots of people teach on this now. I teach on this. You know, breath work is one way, meditation is one way, EFT tapping, inner child healing is some of the ways that I use personally, and I use when I speak to, when I teach people and in my programs. But find the way for you. Yoga is another one, like walk in nature is another one. There are so many different ways, and you might have to use multiple, okay? You might have to use multiple. Sometimes if I'm really anxious, not so much these days, but sometimes when that has happened in the past, I might need to do a few different ones. Great. That is your job. That is your only job, is to soothe your nervous system. It is not to tell them how they've made you feel and send this text message and talk to your friends over and over again about how you're going to tell them how you don't want to be with them anymore because you don't like them. That's not your job. Your job is to soothe your nervous system, soothe your anxiety, and this is all for the best, because everything's going to work out wonderfully in your relationship because you're not sabotaging it and seeing it through the lens of fear. So your only job is to go and do that. So go and do as many as you need to do, find the ones that work for you, you know, build them into your lifestyle as much as possible so that your nervous system starts to reset itself, because it's a trauma response and you've been at this for a really long time. So if at first you can't, it doesn't do anything, you don't feel soothed, keep going, build it into your lifestyle. The more you do it, it took me years. I experienced a lot of trauma as a child, and it took me years to reset my nervous system and to feel very relaxed and control my mind. It took me a really long time. So it's not an overnight thing, because this is trauma and it's living there. But commit to yourself to doing it, because it's going to save everything, and the peace that you feel and that control that you feel is so worth it. So find the ones that do it for you, and your only job is to soothe your nervous system. Do not send a text, do not call their phone. Soothe your nervous system. Listen to this as many times as you need to remind yourself. Okay, then step 3 is that you're needing them to check in with you for you to feel reassured. Okay, that's essentially what it is. So this is where you just want to like give yourself that reassurance. And the way to do that is with like really positive, loving affirmations, because your body and your mind think you're under threat. This person is leaving you. There's a threat. Something's happening. They don't love you anymore. They're, doing something wrong. That's what's happening. So your only job is to calm yourself down. So you're going to soothe your nervous system, and you're going to start to be like, I am so safe. I am safe. I am too important to lose. Everything is fine. I am safe. I am too important to lose. Everything is fine. Or whatever that looks like, whatever you need to hear, you need to be giving it to yourself. Tell yourself, I love you. Whatever you want to hear from that person, you need to be telling yourself it, okay? You have to. It has to come from you. You have to be like, I'm safe. Everything's okay. They're fine. I'll hear from them. They're having a great time. Decide the story and make it a positive one, because the rest of it is just sabotaging you. Okay, so you just tell it over and over again, over and over again. And I don't care if your mind is going to try and tell you no, no, no. It's going to want to try and, because it's under threat, it thinks it's under threat, it's going to try and tell you no, 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 they're doing this, or they don't love you, they don't like. No, no, you just have to keep going with your new story, with your new positive affirmations. No mind, everything is fine, I am safe, I am too important to lose, everything is fine, I am safe. Whatever it is, you're going to have to keep reminding yourself. And I know that this is not an overnight thing. It's not. It takes a while to practice, because you've been doing it the other way for many years, and that's okay. But you have to commit this to yourself, because otherwise you're going to be stuck in this loop and sabotaging relationships for a really long time. Number 4, 3. This is number 4. Put your damn phone away. Put it away. Put it away. I don't care. Hide it under the sofa. Put it somewhere you are not looking at it. You do not want to stare at your phone. You do not stare at your damn phone. Put the damn phone away. Put it in a different room. I do not care where you put it. Just flip and put it somewhere else. And I know it's hard. And then go and do something that makes you feel good. Have a bath, take a walk, watch a film, do whatever it is. Take your mind away from what you are focusing on, which is the negative, and you will find that it will probably fix itself and be great. But while you are hyper focused on the negative, is not going to work like that. So put your damn phone away, do not watch it, and just go and do something that makes you feel good, and you will be pleasantly surprised, because that is your only job. Okay, your only job is to what? I hope you're answering right now. Your only job is to soothe your nervous system, affirm and reassure yourself, and put your damn phone away and go and do something that makes you feel good. Do you see? It's all about you. You are controlling you. You're not trying to control them. When you're blowing up their phone, you're trying to control them so that you are soothed and your anxiety is soothed. That is not their job. That is not their job. No, no, no. You can control you. So you're going to do those things instead, and that will be controlling you. And that feels so much more empowering, and it will make your relationship so much happier because they've had their independence and space without you chasing them and needing them, because you need you and you're good. You've got yourself sorted, and this isn't a practice. You're going to practice this and you're going to get better and better every time you do it, and they're going to have everything they have going on. They have their space. They're going to feel good, and they're going to come together, and it's going to feel so much better. Your relationship's going to feel so much healthier, and you're going to stop self-sabotaging with your anxiety. And then number five is that you are going to watch my free masterclass, Stop Sabotaging Relationships with Anxiety, as a next step, because that will really help you too. And I'll leave a link in the bio. Okay, so I hope you found this helpful. Let me know, and I will see you again.